Death at the Book Club, the second Bloomsbury Bookshop Mystery, by Imogen Penrose. You are listening to the opening chapter. Cleo Marchmont has nearly got used to the ghost and almost made peace with the cat. She was not prepared for the body in the wing-back chair. On the last Tuesday of the month, the book club meets at Marchmont and Bell, and one of its members will not be going home. This is Chapter 1, The Last Meeting. The book club met on the last Tuesday of the month, and Hester Lockwood came first, so that the rest of them might come after. She had a chair she preferred, the wing-back by the cold fireplace, and Cleo had learned to leave it for her the way one leaves a saucer out for a cat that does not, in any legal sense, live there. The shop took on a borrowed look on club nights. 6 chairs in a loose ring among the fiction shelves, a lamp carried down from the flat, the till light off, the street dark in the window, September pressing its first cold evening against the glass. Outside, Helder Street had gone over to evening, the lamp lit, a taxi feeling its way down towards Lamb's Conduit Street, the greengrocer's shutter already drawn. Marchmont and Bell, 3 months reopened and still smelling of cold paper and old dust, did its best for 1 night a month to pass as a drawing room. Boswell did not approve. He was a brown tabby with a white comma on his chin and one forepaw dipped to the wrist in white, and he sat on the counter with that paw tucked under him, watching the chairs out of gold-green eyes as if they had been carried in to replace him. By the philosophy shelves, where the light fell a little kinder, Vivian read the spines she had shelved herself, 40 years of them. She stood straight as a shelf end, iron grey hair cut short, pale eyes that had given up nothing to being dead. She wore the green cardigan she would wear now forever, the 3rd button gone from the top. She had views on the book club. She kept most of them to a lifted eyebrow, which from Vivian ran to several pages. "You've put Mrs. Lockwood by the fire again," she said. "She likes the fire. She likes the throne." Vivian went back to the spines. "I knew her when she was 30 and frightening. She has kept up the frightening. Some women let it go with the figure." Cleo set the last chair straight, pushed her chin-length brown hair behind one ear and tugged Vivian's green scarf closer at her throat against the draught off the door. At 34, she still had the look of a year lived too thin, though the shop was feeding her back into herself by degrees. The club had been her idea, which is to say it had looked a good idea in July and a braver one each month since. Tonight's book was Barbara Pym's Excellent Women, which she had chosen because it was kind and funny and no one could be killed over it. She had been a bookseller 3 months and already thought in those terms, which told her something she chose not to examine. Hester arrived at 7 on the dot, a tall, straight-backed woman of 68, dressed in the expensive plainness of someone who had settled long ago on what suited her and saw no reason to revisit the question. Her silver hair set as hard as a helmet. Miriam came half a step behind her, carrying the bag, the cushion, and the thermos. Miriam Seeley had been Hester's assistant for longer than was decent, a soft-spoken woman of 50, with the look of someone folded too often along the same crease. She set the cushion in the wing-back, stood the thermos on the little side table, and then stood herself against the wall, where Hester liked her. Near enough to be sent, far enough to be forgotten. The thermos went everywhere with Hester. It held a heart tisane, a private blend she had taken for 40 years and would describe to anyone who did not ask. She rested a hand on it the way another woman might rest a hand on a small dog. "Cleo, dear." Hester took the wing back without looking at it, trusting it the way you trust a step you have climbed all your life. "How brave of you, a book club, in this." In this took in the whole shop, the dim and the dust and the leaning ladder, and made it a charity case. Cleo had learnt, with Hester, to hear the second sentence folded inside the first. The others came in a knot behind her. Daphne Whitley, small and round and 78, bright as a robin and not far off the size, who had read the book twice and disagreed with herself about it both times. The Reverend Hugh Merriweather, long and stooped, his dog collar gone soft with washing and his gloom musical with wails, who came for the company and stayed for the arguments. Stephen Caldwell, a novelist whose last novel had been some years ago, with the particular thinness of a man who has been promising too long, in a good jacket worn well past its good years. And, last, the guest. "You'll all know Frances," Hester said, in the tone of a woman performing a generosity that cost her nothing and meant to be remembered. They did all know Frances. Dr. Frances Holt was the biographer they put on the radio when a biographer was wanted, which was more often than you would think. She was broad and handsome in a soft jacket the colour of moss, her grey hair cropped close, a strong, open face made for the back of a dust jacket. She had a book coming, a large one, the kind that wins things. There was talk of a prize, and under the prize a whisper of television, and Frances carried the talk lightly, which is the only way to carry it at all. She took Cleo's hand in both of hers and said the shop was a treasure, and Cleo, who was a fool for being liked her on the spot. Vivian did not. She had gone still when Frances came through the door, not the still of listening, the other one. She said nothing, which from Vivian was also several pages. Boswell came down off the counter, crossed the floor with the unhurried contempt cats keep for the important, and sat with his back to Frances Holt. By the shelves, Vivian looked almost pleased. They talked about Pym for half an hour, which is to say, they talked about themselves, with the book in the room to keep them honest, and failed. Daphne loved the curates. Hugh defended the curates against the charge of being lovable. Stephen said the book was minor, and said it the way some men say minor when they mean a woman wrote it, and Hester let him reach the end of the thought before she took it off him. "It is a small book, Stephen, the way a scalpel is a small knife," she said. "But then you were always happier with the blunter instruments. How is the new one? Still coming, is it? Still on its way?" It was not a question. Stephen's last book had died without a sound after Hester, who had been his agent once, let it be understood over 3 good lunches that she had lost her faith in him. He drank his wine and gave her nothing back, and the room moved on the way a room will, and left him sitting in it. Cleo watched Hester work and saw how good she was. Every kindness had a hook set in it. Every compliment slid open a small drawer in the person and let them see for a moment what she kept there. Cleo, who had trusted a charming man once to her cost, felt the same easy pull towards the charming woman across the room, and made herself mark it, the way you mark a stair that gives underfoot. "Miriam," Hester did not turn her head. "My glasses, the other case, not that one. Do keep up." Miriam kept up. She had been keeping up for 20 years, and it had worn a particular patience into her, the patience of a stone that has given in to a stream. "She files people," Daphne said, low, glad of an ear to pour into. "Did you know? Cards, a true card index, like a library's, only the books are us. She has had a card on me since 1981, my dear, and I have never once dared ask what is on it." Daphne sounded, if anything, proud. Hester had her copy of the Pym open on her knee. It was a neat hardback, older than the paperbacks the rest of them were holding, and when she turned to the front, Cleo saw the small engraved plate inside the cover. Ex Libris Hester Lockwood. She plated everything then, a woman who liked her name in the front of her own books and the backs of everyone else's. While Frances was speaking, Hester took an index card from her bag, wrote a line on it with a little gold pencil, and slid it among the pages of the Pym to mark her place. She did it without looking down, the way you do a thing you have done 10,000 times and will do without thinking on the day you stop. Tell them about the discovery, Francis, Hester said. The letter, the one that made your name. It must be, 25 years now? 28, Francis smiled, and it rather made itself. I was a lucky girl in a good archive on the right afternoon. Weren't you, though? Hester turned a page she was not reading. I never did understand the luck of it. How a thing like that comes to a person out of all the people. One wonders. For the length of one breath, the room felt the floor beneath it. Then Francis laughed, warm and unbothered, and said that luck was the only gift she had ever owned, and she meant to die holding it. And the moment closed over and swam away. But Cleo had been watching Hester's face as she said it, and across the room Vivian had not moved at all. They broke up towards 9. Hugh had a christening in the morning and a sermon that would not write itself before it. Daphne had a cat at home to lie to about the hour. Coats came down off the hooks by the door, and the cold of Helder Street came past them to take their places. A triumph, Cleo. Hester did not rise. You will do it again, I expect. People do so like to be looked at, and you have the room for it. She reached for the thermos and poured the last of the tisane into the little cup. Don't wait on me. I have been letting myself out of bookshops since before you were thought of. Miriam, the bag. Go on, all of you, go. Miriam took up the bag. The others drifted to the door, Francis drawing on her gloves one finger at a time, Stephen already through it and away down the street without a good night, Daphne gathering Hugh by the sleeve. Cleo turned to start on the cups, and behind her she heard Hester set hers down wrong. Not a clink, a knock, china too hard on wood, and after it a sound from the chair she had never heard a person make. Mrs. Lockwood? Hester sat with one hand gripping the arm of the wingback, and the hand was doing her no good. Her face had gone the grey of the dust beneath the boards. She looked at Cleo with enormous surprise, as though Cleo had at long last said something clever, and her mouth opened on a word that did not arrive. At the door the bell was still unsteady on its spring. Daphne turned back into the warm. Cleo, she said, is she... That was The Last Meeting, the first chapter of Death at the Book Club, a Bloomsbury Bookshop Mystery by Imogen Penrose. The doctor will say it was her heart, and the relief in the room will be general, but Cleo is looking at the book in the dead woman's lap. It is the wrong edition. There is no book plate, and it is not the copy Hester came in with. A celebrated scholar, a novelist she dropped, a dealer who would rather not discuss provenance. One of them took what Hester had tucked inside that book. If you would like to read on, the book is waiting. The link is in the description below. And if you are new to Bloomsbury, there is a short story called The Cancelled Leaf, and it is yours, free. That link is below as well. Boswell would like you to subscribe. Boswell would like a great many things. Until next time, from Bloomsbury.